But I want to begin with the Supreme Court because I got many decisions left, but the four big ones. All right, last Friday, the Supreme Court decided that a reasonable gun regulation could be upheld. Limited in scope, limited in time. It prevented domestic abusers from having weapons. And there was a hearing involved. And the Supreme Court, 8-1, said a reasonable regulation limited in time targeted at a specific community of domestic abusers. But this week, I'm hoping we get Loper Bright Enterprises versus Raimondo. Loper Bright. You heard Paul Clement, who argued it on this show last year, and I'm hoping it's more than a 6-3, but at least a 6-3 decision, reversing the so-called Chevron doctrine. It is called the Chevron doctrine, not so-called. The Chevron doctrine has nothing to do with Chevron. It has to do with the almost 1.87 million federal employees out there in the agencies, not military. Okay, we got like 1.869 million federal employees in the regulatory state. That doesn't count the post office. And they have enormous power over your lives. And Loper Bright, if we're lucky, will reverse the Chevron decision that created this deference to these 1,860,000 employees. And the Supreme Court, God bless them, get this one right. This is the most important case this year because it will go on for years and it affects how the federal government's bureaucrats affect you. They will also decide the scope, if any, of immunity for presidents after they leave office. And it will affect Joe Biden. It will affect Donald Trump. It will affect every future president. So it's a hard case. I am hoping either that Chief Justice Roberts or Justice Barrett writes it, and they say, number one, no state prosecutor can ever prosecute a former president. Period. End of story. But the Department of Justice can for crimes if the DOJ accuses a former president of a crime that is clearly not attached, even by a remote degree, to his official powers. If it's got a remote degree of attachment to his official or her official powers, it ought to be immunized by the DOJ. And I also hope they toss out the special counsel or cast aspersions on the special counsel. We have a unitary executive. Merrick Garland is in charge of the DOJ, and he answers to Joe Biden, and thus it shall ever be. The AG always works for the president, and the president always works for you. And I'm looking for the presidential immunity decision to be a 6-3 decision. I know that there was a January 6th case up there about whether or not you can charge all the January 6th rioters with impeding an official proceeding. That's a stretch. That's not what it was intended to do. I think it'll be struck down. Big case that will affect everyone who uses social media is how much can the federal government put pressure on social media companies. And then finally, we're going to find out. There are other cases, but the big five, I've run down them. The homelessness that is rampant in some cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, all along the West Coast. Can local governments regulate that? Can they end that?